guys, it's Shade here, and today I thought I would just do a little, I guess like a ramble video, and it can mainly be about whatever, but I thought I'd make a little ramble video about mental health related stuff, just kind of talking about what it is and some other related aspects of it too. Um, Enjoy the gameplay in the background. This is, yes, in real time. I'm just farming up levels for my characters in Killing Floor 2. I think I said this in the last video, I'm trying to 100% the game. I don't know if I did say that or not, but um, I literally just have an auto clicker I made, and I'm just letting it do its job for me. So I thought this kind of be a good time to sit down and talk about whatever. But you know, let's kind of get into the topic of this video. What really is mental health? Well, mental health is kind of, you know, taking care of your mind and overall just how you feel in your mind. I mean, that's really the best way you could put it. Think of it as your physical health, for example, where, you take care of yourself physically, whether that's going to the gym, eating healthier, or just being a little bit more conscious about certain things, going for walks, whatever. Your physical health kind of refers to how you're doing physically, in the sense of I feel healthy, or you're not sick, or things on that line. Um, Mental health is kind of in the same category. It's really its own thing at the same time. Um, while mental health obviously isn't the same thing as physical health in the sense of, you have to, I don't know, um, you know, if you want to get stronger muscular wise, I mean, you don't go to the gym to make your brain muscularly stronger, what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. You get my point though. So it's like it's different, but also they tie in very well together. And why I'm kind of bringing up this point is I think a lot of people forget how important mental health is and how a lot of people push it off as something that's unimportant. Physical health is something that obviously is very important and is mainly a lot focused on, but people kind of push off mental health and make it as almost as a side objective, if that makes sense. You know, there are some things in the physical health aspect that will help you with your mental health. Like some people say the gym helps them with their mental health, for example. Well, again, everything I say here completely depends upon the person. Excuse me. The word or the statement, it depends, is probably my favorite saying because it genuinely does. Everything depends. So this isn't, I'm not saying for the general public that it's true. I'm saying for some people it may be, if that makes sense. Anyways, for example, some people go to the gym because it betters their mental health. And, while that's true for some people, sometimes it might not be true for others. Some people may struggle with certain things even if the gym doesn't help them. Or, let's say, eating healthier has made them feel better about themselves and more confident, or getting out there, whatever it may be. Um, so all of these things, yes, physically wise, will help you better sometimes mentally. Some people may struggle while some people might help them some, and vice versa. And that's the thing with mental health is it all depends upon the person. And I feel like it's important to stay open-minded in the sense of everyone's different in their own ways. Um, Now it's good to give advice. A lot of people say you're doing this right, you're doing this wrong, and kind of push it off and saying this is why you blah blah blah, you're whatever. Um, which isn't true because, you know, we again, every person struggles in their own ways, even if we don't fully understand it. It's important to kind of stay open-minded and remember, we're all our own person, and we all think through things differently, we all act through things differently, and we all solve things differently. And I feel like a lot of people don't exactly remember that and push it off and say that simply something's wrong with that person, or they just have a deficiency, or just something kind of demeaning towards, a person or group or people in general. People like to, in a sense, blame certain things for how certain people are on certain stuff. I, that's the best way I can put it, honestly. People like to put blames on things instead of realizing the bigger picture on, again, it just simply all depends. And mental health is a really hard thing to deal with because there are so many factors that play into it, and you realistically you'll never find another person that is exactly 100% with every single tiny detail imaginable going through the exact same thing as you, or will have the exact same advice as you. A lot of the battle of, the thing with physical health is a lot of this stuff, you can do the same as other people and it would somewhat have the same outcome. Now, again, it all depends upon your own health and everything like that, but there are similar objectives you can reach towards where it give you the same objective, but for mental health, it doesn't exactly work like that. It's completely variable depending upon the person. And that's what makes mental health so hard, is that sometimes you can take all this advice that people give you, you can try out all these new things that people try you to do, medicines, whatever it might be, and sometimes that fix won't be there. You'll still struggle with the same thing. And sometimes some people find a fix earlier than others, or sometimes people find something that helps them better and over time they get better, but some people, for the rest of their life, it's going to be a struggle. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's okay. As long as we continue to learn from it, and as long as we continue to grow from the challenges that we face, it's a matter of continuing to push and not give up. Because the moment you give up that is the true nail in the coffin. Um, no matter what it is you're going through, you got to keep going. And sometimes, it feels like a endless endeavor. And at the end of the day, I mean, who knows? It might be like that for the rest of our life, and I hate to say that, but it could be true. For some people, it might be, but you gotta keep on pushing and you gotta keep on learning because you never know. Maybe one day something will get better, but if you continue to try and grow and realize, you know, that you're loved or, the things that you did in the past, you're a different person now, or that, you're trying your best to change or whatever it might be. There are so many topics to mental health that it's hard to cover a full aspect of it. But whatever you may be struggling through, the most important thing is continue to try and keep going and just try new things, try different things. Remember to continue to better yourself the best way possible. And some of these mental health problems, it's not that easy. It's never that easy when it comes to mental health, especially when mental health is almost regarded as not a real thing to some people. For example, for myself, just kind of throwing an example out there. I hate to talk about myself and topics like this, but just kind of throwing an example out there. I grew up around a lot of friends and family that didn't really see mental health as a real thing. We kind of just pushed it off, moved on, and if you had mental health issues or you did open up about things, you're kind of just seen as a pussy. I'm just being honest. Like, that's kind of what I grew up around. And over time, talking to other people, realizing different things, you realize that that's not true. And at the same time, you have to be open-minded and think how these people think as well. It's almost in a sense of, well, maybe it's possible that there might be one or two people out there that truly don't struggle with anything and it's whatever to them. At the same time, it could be a coping mechanism for how those people think. I feel, in my opinion, I feel like everybody goes through something mentally, whether it's some people have it more severe than others, but no matter how small it is, there's something that bothers someone out there. And some people deal with it in certain ways, and the example I just gave is a way for how some people cope with these problems. And while it's not okay to, in my opinion, while it's not fully okay to spread it to other people, you gotta be careful with how you tell people these things. If coping with mental health works for you that way, then so be it. If it works for you, cool. But people have to realize, and you'll have to, well, I shouldn't say have to, because at the end of the day, we all have free will to do what we want. So if people want to change or people don't want to change, that is totally up to them, and it's totally up to the individual. We cannot control people for their actions and what they do. But I feel like it's an important thing to remember that everybody deals with things certain ways, and what you say could hurt someone else, especially if you don't realize the depth of it. And that's, an important lesson to learn is the way you deal with things, someone else might not deal with it, or your opinion you might have on the topic, or whatever it might be. You know, the way you word that thing or the way you come out with it might hurt other people without you even realizing. Now, I'm not saying, suppress your opinions. I feel like the freedom of speech is a wonderful thing to have, and as individuals, we should be open-minded and spread our opinion about things, but in a respectful manner. And he might be questioning, how does this tie in with mental health? Well, it kind of ties into the whole factor of how people deal with things differently, and being open-minded in the sense of we have to understand that someone may be struggling with something and we may not fully understand it, but we have to still be empathetic with why they may be struggling with it. It's okay to ask questions on why do you feel this way, what made you feel this way, as long as the person obviously is okay with sharing these things. But I feel like it's important to strive to be open-minded and see and realize, that even if we don't fully understand it, it's still important to support the person for whatever they're going through, because sometimes what affects them may not affect us at all, but what affects them may affect them, tremendously. And, this kind of plays into the whole statement I said near the beginning of the video, where it depends. Everything depends. Hold up, I almost died right there. Still kind of watching this, but, um, at the end of the day, all of it still completely depends. Depends upon the person, depends upon their situation, depends upon their past, depends upon what they're dealing with, what they do regret, what they love, what they hate. So many factors that play into it. And I think an important thing to remember is there's never a definite answer to mental health. And some people treat it as a sense of there are definite answers, or that it's not important, or that it's something to just ignore, which that in itself leads to issues that a lot of people don't realize. So I feel like when it comes to, mental health, not only is it a journey with ourselves in learning, how can we better our own selves, or how can we maybe make life a little bit brighter day by day, even if we struggle to make it bright or see it as bright. It's a journey through other people as well, and learning how they act, what they do, what we can learn from other people's lessons, whether it's seeing their struggles or listening to the advice that they have, or whatever. It's not only a journey with ourselves, but it's a journey through societal lessons and, values other people may have too. I feel like it's very important to, hold this information and learn from it if possible. And again, it's okay not to agree with certain things. That's where the statement of, you must know yourself kind of comes into play, because, you kind of have to know yourself as well to realize what works best or what doesn't work best for you. And even then, that can be hard to say, because sometimes part of the battle could be us not even knowing our own selves. We could live day by day in our life, just feel like we're just repeating someday, hoping something happens, or playing games, or faking what we do, acting like we enjoy what we do, or whatever, just to try and feel something. So sometimes we don't even know our own selves, and that's okay too. That in itself is a learning lesson, and that in itself is something where we have to give time to. Because there's a lot of people out there, including me as well, where, we're still even learning about what we like, what we do, or even how we picture ourselves. And even though we may struggle with that vision, we may struggle with that thought, and it's very possible that we may not be happy with the picture that we have for ourselves. You have to remember the picture everybody else has for you too, and every single person you meet has their own vision of you, and you won't look at that person and be like, oh yeah, that's them. Where they, so everybody has their own vision of you, and it's important to try and have a vision of yourself. You may struggle with that for the rest of your life. You gotta remember, you gotta strive to keep it pushing, keep doing things that sound interesting to you, or just keep it going no matter what it is. You don't want to just give up and stop, because then that's where your picture diminishes. That makes sense. That might have not been the greatest explanation of that, but basically the summary of what I'm trying to say is it's hard to have a vision for yourself, especially if you don't know who you are to this day, and you're trying to fit in many pictures that look good to you because you don't fully like yourself. But it's important to remember that people like you for who you are, and everybody has an own vision of you and the personality that you hold and you have. And I feel like it's important to remember that because it reminds us that we're human just like everyone else. And that's a whole topic that we can get into right now as well, is seeing ourselves as human. Because I feel like the individual psyche, we like to separate ourselves from other people. Comparison is the thief of joy, and imagine you've heard that saying plenty of times from everywhere, but it's true. And while it's easy to say that, it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to not compare ourselves to other people. Well, don't get me wrong. Again, where this statement comes into play again, it depends. Some people have learned not to compare themselves, and some people are proud about the people who they are and only focus on themselves. And if so, that's a great thing. That's good. Well, I do say that's good. Be careful not to be prideful. That in itself can lead to many problems by itself. Being prideful not only blinds your views and keeps you less open-minded, but it also hurts the people around you without you realizing what you're doing. That's a topic for a whole nother video though, so be careful of pride. But a little bit of it could help you with your own views. But anyways, we're kind of getting off topic here. You know, and once we start comparing ourselves to other people and we start looking at some other things, it could lead you to saying like, oh, I'm not like these other people. Or it could be with regrets in the past, where it's like, oh, because I did that, I'm a monster and I'm not the same as these other people. And I don't deserve to be treated or to have these things as the same other people, whatever it might be. There's so many excuses and things we can say for that. But we have to remember we're just as human as everyone else. We all have thought processes the same as everyone else. We all have to eat, drink water, live, move, all have our own hobbies, whatever it might be. We're all human. And I feel like the very important thing to remember is it's very important not to treat yourself differently from others, especially when all, again, we're all human. And no matter how much of a monster you feel like, I don't know what you're going through, but no matter how much of a monster you feel like, or, you know, how much you feel like you don't deserve certain things, or no matter how much you feel like you don't belong in a certain space, you do. Um, you know, it's not a sense of feeling like you don't belong kind of plays into the same thought process of not feeling like a human, like you feel like you need different treatment. But it's not true. We as our own selves are our biggest critics, because we tend to focus on the negative outcomes of our lives and ourselves more than the positives, while other people, especially people that love us, see the positives way more than we can see it in ourselves. And there's a lot of outside factors that play into how we see ourselves as well. Social media, I believe, is a huge one that plays a factor in this. Social media, the things we see on the internet, the things we see other people do, other things we see people accomplish and thrive in, whatever it might be. All of us, all of these things might make us seem like we don't deserve certain things, that we don't deserve to be treated the same as other people. Or it could even question us to be like, why are people treating me with respect when they don't realize the things I've done in the past, or the things I haven't accomplished, or all this other stuff. All of that's not true. And we have to, sometimes, it takes just a view of sitting down and looking at the views of how do other people view me? Why do people come up to talk to me? Or or even then, like, why did people used to come up and talk to me, or whatever it might be. Uh, I don't know if, you know, y'all have someone to talk to or not, and if y'all don't understand, it can be a hard thing to go through. Loneliness is one hell of a thing. Still have to remember, no matter what, there is something or someone out there that loves you. And you know, it takes time to remember, like, we're just as human as everyone else. And not only can we change, we can better ourselves and we can learn through how we think, not only about ourselves, but other people as well. And realizing the other views people may have for us maybe could help us realize, maybe I'm not so much of a monster after all. Or maybe I am loved, or, there's a small reason to kind of continue to push and move on. Because even then, if you don't have anyone to talk to, you never know who may come up in your life in the future. You'll be surprised for who pops up in your future life, and you gotta give that time. Um, Whether it may not feel like, how sometimes it may not feel like you're loved, or you have no one to talk to, or you're scared to talk to your feelings about people. Because trust me, I understand that. Uh, that doesn't mean you're not important, and that doesn't mean the way you feel isn't important either. You are just as important as every other human on this planet. Um, don't let don't let views, don't let false views sway the way you view things. Because, and when I say false views, I mean what things look like on social media, what things look like on the internet. Because there's so many things on there that you don't know if it's real or not. And probably heard this before, but social media and the internet likes to paint pictures that aren't true. Um, Even then, sometimes you might look at these views in person and be like, well, their life seems perfect in person too, so what's the point you're trying to get across? But you don't exactly know what that person's going through, especially if they haven't talked to it through you, about it to you, whatever it might be. Um, there's so many factors that play into this, so I do apologize if, all this has kind of been a rough explanation and stuff. Because again, we're kind of talking about the topic of mental health, and that is a huge topic to get into, so I'm kind of just hitting a lot of main points. But I guess the summary I can get across on this topic we just brought up is, it's important to remember that, you are loved, you are human, even if other people, even if people treat you like you're not one, or your own view treats you in the sense of, even if your own view of your own self tricks you into thinking you're not, or you're fighting something deep in your past that makes you believe otherwise, or, don't think you're loved because you don't know how to, truly be yourself, or you're scared, to be yourself, or you don't like yourself. There's so many things that go into this. You just gotta remember to keep pushing, keep moving on, and that one day, as long as you keep pushing, there is a chance for things to get better. Because the moment you give up, there is no trying anymore. It's important to continue to move on and keep going, because you never know what might pop up in your life, what might be better, what might change. And if there's one thing I can definitely tell all of you, the most important thing is you are human, just like everyone else. And when it comes to being humans, humans have a chance to change. Humans have a chance to become better. Humans have a chance to feel better. And just like every other human, you deserve every other thing humans need, which is, hopefully being healthy physically, being healthy mentally, being loved, whatever it may be. Don't forget that you deserve the same things other humans have. And I get it, it's a hard thing to remind yourself that. But, no, too. So, and then I just wanted to do a little mental health ramble for this video. I don't know how short this video is. But I'll probably end it here. Basically, in summary, is what I'm saying out of this whole video is just kind of wrap things up in like a summary. Mental health, it completely depends upon the person. There's things, people struggle with things differently. So it's important to stay open-minded and remember that because someone struggles with something and you don't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't, hurt them tremendously or whatever. So it's important to not only be open-minded, but to learn from other people, learn from yourself, and apply these lessons to your real life. And remember, again, it all depends upon the person and what they go through. It's important to love yourself and remind yourself that you're human and that you're not a monster and you don't deserve to be treated in negative ways just because you, your own self, believe that thing or some person made you feel that way. That's not true. You're just as human as everyone else and you deserve love. Even if it's hard to find that love and even if it feels lonely, you do deserve that love. And with time, I hope one day that you will feel that. Another thing is anything that you're struggling with, it all takes time, you know. Continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to bloom into that flower you can be. And blooming doesn't happen instantly. It takes time, it takes growing, it takes watering, it takes the flower dying here and there. It takes time to water that flower and for it to bloom. And then one day, sometimes, you know, it might not be the best flower in the whole patch, but it bloomed, and that's something you can learn from and continue to grow from and continue to be. Um, so remember, you know, anything mental health related, it takes time and it's hard. It's a hard thing to deal with, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. Um, and other than that, just don't give up. That's the biggest thing. Don't give it up. Keep pushing. Keep the train moving forward. Because you never know what life will give you. It may feel like life has nothing for you right now, but trust me, keep it pushing. You never know what life will give you. It takes time. But I would feel like that's the summary of what I have right now. Maybe in the future I'll get into more specific topics about mental health because again this was a general coverage of it and I just hit topics that are important to me or something that popped up in my mind. Again, mental health doesn't come down to just simply this. There's so many things to mental health that are so important. Again, mental health in general is just a very important topic to me and I feel like mental health is something that is kind of pushed away and ignored, you know, compared to physical health, for example. That's another summary, is I feel like mental health is kind of pushed away and deemed as not important when it truly is super, super important. And keeping awareness for it is very hard because a lot of people won't keep awareness for it. Um, so I feel like it's important to, you know, remind ourselves how important mental health is for our own selves, too. Um, but anyways, if y'all want me to hit any specific topics, let me know. I'll be glad to, or try to talk about it in the best of my ability. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a professional in the field, so don't take, you know, what I say completely literally. Um, but you know, I'll try to give the best advice that I can, even if my advice isn't that great. Um, but yeah, anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to this video. Um, I know it's not the most enjoyable gameplay in the background, but I just thought it'd be a good time to kind of yap as I lazily upgrade this character because I'm not playing the actual game to level up these characters, man. You know how long it takes to get these characters to level 25? Good lord, it takes forever. But anyways, um, y'all take care, uh, and I'll see you in the next video whenever I make that. But yeah, peace out, guys.